Survival, crafting, building, and harvesting. Uh, Actually, a very common thing, and it's also very difficult. There's a lot of coding. There's a lot to it. So this is probably going to be a relatively difficult series, I think. With that said, I'll probably be completely fucking wrong and whatever. So, anyways, let's kind of just figure out what we want to do. So we have a terrain, and we need a way that we want to harvest things. And we're not going to add like some crazy amount of different things. What do I have here that I can use? Environment, we have generic would be more better. We have trees, and we have rocks somewhere. Small rocks. We don't want small rocks. More of a boulder. All right. Well, I'll find a boulder. It's not a big deal. I can just do this, I suppose. Oh, not a physics material. Gravestones, bunker floors, more gravestones. Okay, well, whatever. We'll find something. I'm sure we will. So we want to get a way that we can harvest something, and we want to build stuff, right? We want to be able to build, say, a house or a cabin by more or less activating stuff and building the floors, building the walls, Ark style or Conan Exiles, and I think it's Fortnite uses it. That style of building. We should do that kind of style of building. And it's difficult. Trust me, I have done it before, and it is not an easy task. So I think the first thing we should probably do before anything is create a folder. And I shouldn't name it folder because it is a folder, and do it building survival. So building survival, we need in that, just for starters, we're going to need two materials. We're going to need a good and a bad. So I'm going to make these both transparent. So the bad, we're going to make it kind of red, but lots of transparency. And the good, we'll make it transparent. The green, with lots of transparency. So ideally, to show you kind of what that would look like, if we were to build something, I'll just use this. Right? If we wanted to build that, I would, we'd remove some of this stuff, but we could change. Where the hell did I just put that? Building survival, right? I can change it. Look, it's bad. It's a bad. We're in collisions or whatever the case may be. It's not a good place to build, or it's a good place to build. Pretty simple, right? And then when it's actually built, we need to give it its normal material and give it its physics and all that fun stuff. And of course, you have the snapping, the whole idea of snapping. So I think to start off, we should build some UI so we know what we're doing. All right, so we're gonna need. Well, let's say we're going to need a few buttons. And the first thing I actually want to do is put this on scale screen size and go to 2D mode. Scroll out, and let's stick these buttons somewhere. And I'm just going to stick them along here. Actually, you know what? If I was smart, I would take this, move it down here, there. Give this a grid layout group, and then take these buttons and just stuff them in there. And then cell size, we'll say 75 by 25 might be good. And let's do fixed row count of 1, or fixed column, no, fixed row count. Alright, so let's do, well, that's probably fine. Let's stick that right there. So that can be, I don't know, say a building system of some sort. And what else do we want? We want a way. Let's call this hotbar build. And let's call this one inventory. And let's add in this guy a panel. And I need to give him some width, I believe. Alright, fine, be that way. I'll just do a panel then. Panel. And I'm going to put the panel, I don't know, say over here. Doop, just like that. Increase its, don't need to go high, too high, I guess. And this guy can be the inventory. And in this guy we have, what are we going to have? A title maybe? And we can have another panel. Bring that down, something like that. Give this one, oh, even a darker, oh, not that dark though. Something like that, and go title, and slots, and then in our slots, we're also going to add a grid layout group. So title, let's call this inventory. Stick it in the middle, give it a brighter color, do a best fit. I'm going to scale it down so it's sharper. And I should probably spell it right. There we go. So now we have a bit of an inventory. And the slots, right, we have these grid layout groups. So we can now create little panels. And these are, I won't say 50s. Oops. And give that a little bit of a space. Right, so now we have these little slots. You can hit them there all you want, type of idea, as many as you want. You can lock them, do whatever, don't matter. And I'm going to bring that down there and give this a little bit on the left. Okay. And I'm going to delete all those and call this one a slot. And the slot is also going to have a image inside of it, which will be 50 by 50. No, we're going to go 45 by 45. So then you could have, for example, images like that, or whatever we have for icons, right? We have an item, we don't have an item. All right. The other thing we could have is a quantity, something like that. Let's bring this down. Like that. Put him like this. I don't know, maybe white. Right, so he would look something like that. We'll stick him in the middle. Now we have a bit of a slot. I'm going to prefab that and delete it. We don't need it right now. So now we have a bit of an inventory, and we would need a FSM. I'll call this master. So where do we want to start from here now though, right? So we need a way to have items, right? Like if we created, I don't know, we'll say a cube even. Here, let's create a new material called wood. And this cube is going to get that. And wood is going to be a brownish color. And it doesn't need to be smooth at all. So there's our little chunk of wood. Shrink them down. So there's a little block. Change his name. He's wood. So we have wood. So we need to get wood into a collection of some type. So how do we want to do that? Well, if we have a system where we have a player, do a capsule, sure, he could be our player, why not? Where'd he go? So on our little player here, he needs a way to actually have an inventory to even deal with any of this stuff, right? So that inventory is literally just going to be an array, and we might want to use array list proxies for these. So we use array maker. If you don't have it, go playmaker, add-ons, ecosystem, browser, go into the array. You can also add these filters too, right? And go packages. Watch me get so there's array maker. Better way of dealing with arrays, right? We can go, call it inventory, and it could be game objects. It could be numerous things. But for now, we want, for example, well, let's actually create two of these. I'm going to create another one. I'm just going to paste it over. Paste component as new. So this one's going to be names and quantity. And let's do another one. New and do icon. So this guy would be a object or sprite. There we go. Quantity is, we'll say, integer, and names is a string. There we go. So we have these three kind of things, but they have to be run in unison, right? So for example, let's get our little wood. Let's prefab him and bring him over here. If we need a way to pick him up and say he has a quantity and he obviously has a name, he needs to go in here and he has an icon, we need to populate these accordingly, right? So if we add item, if we're going to add an item, first thing we're going to want to do is in the names, and this is a string, and the variable is get event info, get event, let's do object, so let's just get event info. So this guy would have a game object data. So this is the incoming item, right? It's a game object. So in the game object, such as this, we're going to add an FSM, and we'll call this item, and in it, oh, alright, let's remove that and go over to this guy, add it here. Okay, add item, and this guy has a string, which is a name, put that on the output, and he's also going to have a integer for quantity, put that out there, and he has a sprite for icon, and put that out there. Okay, so this wood now, he has this stuff, right? So wood, his name is wood, you know, a quantity of 5 even. I don't have a sprite right now for him. I'll have to figure something out with that. Right, so he's wood 5. And we can adjust those during game, of course. So if he sends an event now to this guy, alright, fine, be that way. There you go. Get rid of that one. Prefab wood item. What the hell? Alright, so you, why aren't you saving? Save yourself, do some changes. I don't know why it's been billing silly like that. Wood item. That's being weird, but whatever. Can always redo it. So we're getting the info. We get this incoming item. Now in that, we get FSM string. We'll take these things, and I'm going to actually just drag this in to get the references. We get the name of the incoming item as incoming name. And that needs to be right up near the top. And you could use more of these things too. I'm not using those right now, potentially because we could need numerous integers or numerous strings, and these can only set in one of each when doing it that way. Get FSM int, and that will also be of this guy's item quantity, incoming quantity, and again get FSM object, not game object, just object. So we need a variable. We're going to need to make it actually over here, and it's object type incoming sprite. And this object type, we're going to hold down U, go to Unity, go over to sprites, hold down S, there it is, sprites. There we go. So now I'll use the reference things. The item, the icon is the incoming sprite. Turn these into that. Okay, so this guy needs to go to the top. So we're getting the object, and then we get those 3 bits of data. Now, I'm going to only check versus one of them, because they should all be synced. So we're saying, does inventory names contain this name? And if it is contained, and right, and we also need this. That's a very important number, right? So we do have one, or we don't have one. And if we don't have one, then we need to array add, or array list add, I should say. And all we're going to do is we're going to use inventory names, copy, paste, type, string, variable, incoming name, and I'm going to do another array list add. I might possibly want to do insert, but we'll see how well this works, because I mean they should be synced. And what we're going to do is array list add. So the quantity is an integer, so we're adding the incoming quantity, and the icon is a object type. Object type is a Unity sprite, and that is the incoming sprite. So there we go. So we've added everything. And then we're going to want to, at the end of that, destroy, or you can pool stuff here, but I'm going to just use destroy for now. We are going to destroy the incoming item. We've added it, let's destroy it. Now, if we do have it though, right, then what we want to do is array list we don't need to deal with the sprite, because we don't need to copy the sprite, and we don't need to deal with the name because the name is already in there, but we do need to deal with the quantity. So we need to array list get the quantity list at index, the contained index, and it's an integer, current quantity, and then we want to int add move to the bottom. We want to add current quantity to incoming quality to current quantity, or vice versa. It really doesn't matter for this. And then array list set. And then we want quantity, copy, paste, at the contained index, type integer, value is current quantity, because we're adding to the current quantity. So we get the current quantity. Oh, we need to move this up above all that. And then we're adding the incoming quality to the current quantity, and then we got to tell the array to reset, and this is your new current quantity. And then copy and paste. Destroy the incoming object. So this would right? He has wood quantity. We don't have a sprite. I'm going to give him just a sprite for now, just in case it throws errors. And let's give him a way that we can actually pick him up for now, and this might just be a temp way. And I'm just going to do it by trigger. So if we hit the player, let's do pickup, and this is our player itself. So what we need to do is we need to set event data, and we need to set our quantity. Where's my, why does this guy not have my, oh yeah, because he's in a different FSM. Duh. Get FSM int, and I guess I always could put it in there. Get FSM string and get FSM object. So we're going to get from the item, we're going to get the icon. Oh, not every frame. Move to the top, and where's my integer and my string? So again, item name, store as name, item quantity, store as quantity. And of course, because it's a sprite object, we need to do this portion. We need to tell it what kind of object it is. It is a sprite. So now we are, okay, we get the name, we get the quantity, and we get the icon. Now we need to set quantity. We need to set the icon. We need to set the name. And like I said before with the other one, it also uses the game object data, which is here. We don't have that yet. So on start, get owner, and we're just going to get our self. Simple as that, nothing special. So he now is self. And then we need to send this event, this loaded event full of data, to, and I'm just going to take the references from this guy to the inventory, to the add item, but this is actually for the player. Alright, so the wood, let's make sure that's all set up there. And this is here, and if we duplicate him, like that, let's make sure our player is tagged properly. Okay. So I'm not on maximize play. I'm just going to hide this for now. So now we have this little player, and as you see, these contents are zeros. But if I take this guy and he did not do, oh yeah, well, that's the other thing, is we need a rigid body or a character controller, either or. Right, because we're trying to fire off triggers. Can't do trigger without one. Alright, so we hit this. We should have picked it up, right? So count of 1, we have our sprite, we have a quantity of 5, and we have wood. And if we pick up another one, we have wood now at 10, and still obviously the same sprite. So we pick them all up, and we have 20. Nice and simple. How are we doing for time? 30 minutes? I should probably almost keep these things, try to keep them down to 30 minutes, eh? So there's the basics of how we're going to start collecting our resources, though. And then we'll transfer that data to the inventory. I don't know if I'm going to do a great deal of logic for the inventory and the ways of interacting with it. That's a whole pile of logic in its own. It's an inventory. I've already started building an inventory tutorial anyways. But we need to take this data so that we can, not that data, this data, so that we can have an idea of, let's say we want to craft a floor on what we need, so we can subtract from this data so that we can build a floor and have the floor snap to each other, and the walls and the roof and whatever items, a chair, right? So that is the start of our survival, and we'll talk to you in the next video.